Hi there, it's Carl Irwin, the Common Magician, and I am back already. And I've looked at some of the responses that were put on the last video, a call for effects. And this is going to be the first video in a series, hopefully, where we address some of those. And also, what's going on here, if you're seeing this first, what we're asking for is an effect, some kind of simple, direct effect, kind of table magic-y sort of effect. Could be with cards, could be with anything else. We're going to look at cards today. Could be with anything kind of accessible to the common magician. And if you've frequented this channel, you kind of know the sort of magic we deal with here. The sort of everyday kind of material, things that use found objects in intimate settings. Come up with an effect that you think fits the nature of this channel, and I will try, maybe, if I can get around. I won't get around to everybody, obviously, but I'll pick and choose. I will give you the common magician treatment for your effect and give you an idea, at least how I would do it. It might not be how you would do it. Some of you may present to me an effect that you do already, and I'll give you kind of my take on what I would do to accomplish that effect in the given the nature of this channel and the way that we do things here. So we're going to look at the first, actually we're going to do a couple of low-hanging fruit options here. And I have to say, as I looked at the examples that were given on the last video, and if you have any ideas, please put them in this video as well, something you'd like to see, I can explain the method for a number of those effects that you listed on the last video with two methods that work together. The first is elaborate preparation and forcing. So elaborate preparation and a good force, and you can get most of the way there in some of yours. Some of those ideas you came up with are quite elaborate and would require quite a lot of elaborate preparation just for materials, and we may look at some of those. There's a couple of really good, I think, what I would call parlor effects. They don't seem incredibly impromptu, but they would be very good kind of dining room table, kitchen table, living room sort of parlor effects, right? In the parlor of the house where people gather and sit and lounge. So we may investigate some of those if we can get some time and I can get the resources together. But for now, we'll do the low-hanging fruit, as I said. So this one goes out to who do we get here? Weights Watcher. I had to ask for clarification on this one, and I did get an answer, and I think I know what we're after here. But this was a concept that was listed on the last video, and we're going to look at my treatment for it. So very simple. You're going to make a random selection. I just want you to, I'm going to dribble the cards. I want you to tell me when to stop. Go ahead and say stop right there, and I want you to take a look. I don't want to look at it. I don't want to see it. You take a look, kind of sear that into your mind, and we'll just lose it here. Now, I don't know what it is. I know it's in the deck. We know that it was random. We're going to verify that here in a moment just to be sure that there's no duplicate or anything like that. But let's take a look. I'm going to try to find it. I'm just going to randomly pick it out like you did. But I'm going to get 3 chances. Okay, 3 chances to do it. So if I can find it in 3 chances, we'll say that that's impressive. Okay, it might not be the best trick in the world, but it would be impressive. I think you would agree. Okay, so let's give this a shot here. Again, just 3 chances, and I'll see if I can find your card. Here's 1 chance. Two. And try one more here. Random selection again. We'll say 3. Now, I just want to make sure that I got close. I haven't made my final yet. Okay, but I've got 3 choices here to go from. Just to see if I'm close, I want you to tell me if you see your card remaining in the deck. So if you take a look real quick, you can see all the values as I go through them. See if you can indicate to me if you still see your card in the deck. Did you see it in there? No? It's not in there. Okay, so we're doing good. We're doing good. This is pretty good, at least as far as a stunt goes. We're close, hopefully. So is your card always go with the middle? Is it the 8 of spades? No. Am I close? I'm close? Well, then it must be the 8 of clubs. No, 8 of hearts? It's the 8 of diamonds. Well, if it's not here, and it's not here, go take a look in the box. See, it's been sitting there the whole time before we even started the trick. The 8 of diamonds. So this is just kind of how I read the effect as you presented it. And this is how I would do it. This is the common magician treatment. So you're actually going to get 2 for the price of 1 on this, because it's interesting. The trick that you described, and my presentation might be a little bit different from what you figured. You might figure a different way to present the 3 other cards, but ultimately the effect that you were going for was a random selection that was returned to the deck and then shows up in the box, and the other 3 matching cards are located without knowing the actual selection, okay, or appearing to know. So that was the effect that was described there, and this is my treatment for it. Interesting is that we're actually going to address one other person. Jay plays 568 is the name of the handle there. Jay plays 568. Said he wanted to know what was the story with the last trick, right? The slot machine trick. How was that done? It's just funny because really this is the same trick. This is very much the same trick, at least the way I'm dealing with it here. And there's other, of course, alternative ways to do this. Ultimately, I think what we're looking at with this trick is some preparation, and of course, you're going to have to kind of be prepared in the way I'm doing it. The common magician way is you're going to use a duplicate, right? So the duplicate card is going to be their choice card. And you'll notice that I'm saying duplicate, but there's not another card in here. There's no other 8 of hearts. At least it would not appear so. Actually, there is another 8 of hearts, and it is right here, and this is kind of the secret sauce to this. I have actually 8 of diamonds. Sorry, I forgot which card we were dealing with. The 8 of diamonds is right here, and what we have going on is a double thick key is their choice, and we're going to force this out as a double thick key. But I also have another gaff. I've got just a random card. In this case, it's just the Queen of Clubs, and there is a piece of double stick tape on the back. Now, I actually set this up and started to record this a little while ago, and I was doing it with B back, and I found that with the static design on the back of the B cards, that diamond pattern, you could see the tape, but not so easily with the bicycle pattern when you have some other kind of busy pattern going on there. So I highly recommend when you're dealing with double stick tape, there's just like an inch long piece right there in the middle. And what I do with double stick tape is I kind of gum up both sides of it, just put it on my thumb and get a little bit of the sticky off before I put it down on the paper. That way it's easy to remove later on, doesn't damage the card, and also it doesn't stick too hard to the card that we're going to affix to, which is actually going to be the double thick card is going to get affixed to that. And that's how we're going to make it disappear from the deck. So if you ever want to make a card disappear from the deck, I highly recommend that you use double stick tape. It's a very, very good method. So the way this works is we have the real 8 of diamonds. The legit 8 of diamonds is already in the box from the start. We're going to force 8 of diamonds, and then I've got the other 3 8s on the bottom of the deck. Now, I had a little bit of a elaborate setup here. I could have this already sitting underneath or somewhere else. I guess I could just put it in the middle to start with, because that's where we're going to get to. But what I did was I cut the deck, took the top half, and then I placed it in the top quarter, so in the middle of the top half. halfway through the top half. And then I have my sticky card on the top. So what this allows me to do is just give a subtlety at the very beginning, at least in my presentation. I cut and then I riffle, shuffle the deck. What I'm doing is I'm actually going to riffle that card more central, but it demonstrates that I'm mixing the cards. And as a subtlety, I think that's helpful. Right before you go to force something, I think it's really good in subtlety to shuffle the cards. Either legitimately shuffle the cards or false shuffle them. I don't think it really matters one way or the other because you're not really drawing attention to it specifically. For magicians on video, this is probably the better way to do it, is I'm actually doing a real riffle shuffle, but really what I'm doing is I'm placing my key in a more advantageous place. I drop a bed on the original bottom because that's where my 8s are at. I've got my other 3 8s are down there. My sticky card needs to end up on top. I drop a bed and then I riffle fairly, making sure that my sticky card arrives back on top, and then I square it. Now my key card is more central, and I'm just going to force it with a dribble force using the double thick key. And if you've ever had a phobia for the dribble force, doing it with a double thick card, a thick card as your key makes it absolutely foolproof. It's very, very easy. We've talked about this recently. I'm a big advocate of this as a key card. When I'm not using this, I'm using a breather or some other kind of crimp. But you can't really do this with that kind of key. This is a kind of key that has a tactile quality to it. I can always arrive at that card. I'll always hit it. So you're just going to dribble, explain. I'm going to dribble. I want you to tell me when to stop. Go ahead and say stop. If they wait on you, right, the way you deal with that kind of spectator is you just drop everything and say, try to be quicker. Try to really get something random, right? Go ahead and say stop, and no matter when they say stop, you're just going to dribble until the click. It's a fraction of a second. It's just such a small amount of time that the way the dribble force works, it really doesn't matter when they say stop. You're going to hit it. They could say stop immediately. They could say stop, and you're going to stop right there, and it's just so close, right? It's just the randomness of the dribble seems fair. You kick that card out. I drop this on top. My sticky card is up here. I show my double thick card, key card. I drop it on top, and now it has disappeared. It's already disappeared because it is now affixed to the sticky card. Okay, so now that it's here, I can cut it into the deck. And now think about the situation. The double thick force card is now affixed to the sticky card, and above it, because on the bottom I had my 3 8s. So now my 3 8s are right next to the key, which means I can get back to them very easily. So now this is how this relates to the slot machine trick, which we're going to look at here in a minute. I'll explain that. And then we're going to look at one more trick from someone else on there. It was Jess Balome had an idea about kind of a card at any number kind of effect. And we love those kinds of effects. I'm going to talk about that too. So kind of a long video worth your while here. But now I have a situation where I'm going to randomly produce the 3 other 8s. Okay, so the way I do this is I riffle in the back to cut, and now I've put my key at the bottom and I've got my 8s right here. All 3 8s are right here on the bottom. I cut, I split, I'm going to drop a bed over here, and then I'm going to riffle fairly, leaving my key card on the top. My key, which is now taped to the queen, right? So that's on the top, and then I'm going to square. And then what I do, my move here is I do a strip, but it's a false strip initially. I'm going to take half off the top. Here's my key. And then I'm going to strip the bottom few cards, a block from the bottom, which is going to be these 8s. So I'll strip off a good sizable block from the bottom and drop it. And then I do fair strips from the top. And then I've now placed, again, my 8s against the key. Now, in the other effect, which we'll look at, what I did was I did riffle, and then I did the strip. So you can riffle and maintain the top and the bottom on both riffles. Do the strip, which puts it back in again. And then I do one more riffle in that one, which means I divide again where my key is here. My 8s are here again. I do one more riffle where I maintain those 8s on the bottom, key on the top. and then cut at the very end. And you can have the spectator cut. And this is great because the spectator actually places it into place. Now I skipped all of that in this because I'm trying to be quick. So this would be, again, it's back in the middle as if I just did my false strip. Each time I do those phases, I always end up back here with the force cards on top of the key. Now all I have to do is cut, and I'm taking off the bottom card and I throw that out. I drop my keys back, I drop my 8s back on top of the key. I've got 1 8 removed, and then I just repeat. So I riffle up in the back, divide at the key, 8s are on the bottom, drop the 8s, put the key card on top, do a false strip for the bottom section, then a true strip on top of that, and then I can cut again, and I take off the next 8. I've got my last 8 here, I drop it on top, I divide again, and then I riffle the 8 to the bottom, riffle the key to the top, square it up, and then I do a false strip one more time. Strip the bottom card first, and then strip fairly on top of that, and then I can do my last cut. So this is just a very, very clean looking procedural. It looks like fair procedural shuffling and fair dead cutting, and I'm hitting these cards, right? So a double thick card can really give you Master of the Universe level appearing control. You can do some pretty heavy lifting gambling control using that one gaff. Very, very good gaff, and it's square. It's not like a short where, you know, if you look at it close up, that you would see that one card is off. Double thick is square all the way around. You just don't want someone to touch it and handle it, but otherwise it's a very, very good deceptive key. Now we're good. I can spread the cards out, right? I can finger them off, and I can say, do you see? Before we look at these, I just want to confirm that I'm close, right? See if you can spot it. Do you see your card in here? And when I get to this Queen of Clubs, I'm going to push the Queen, and also the double thick card is right underneath it. Okay, and I push them away. You could, if you want to, deal all the cards out, but I think this is a little bit better for time. Also, visually, I think it's helpful to hide the thickness of that card. No one really can see it. It's not something that they're looking for. If you spread toward, so more toward, so you can do kind of a curve, but spread toward the spectator, and then as you finger them off, you're going kind of at them, right? So they're never really getting a good glimpse of the edge of this card, or triple card packet there, and then I can go through. They don't see it, which is good, because remember the premise of the trick. I've now done two things. I have demonstrated that I am close, but I've also demonstrated that their card is not here. I don't have to make a big deal of that later on, okay? I'm kind of whacking this out ahead. I'm saying the card's not there, which means it must be here, which means I'm really close. Not bad. I pick a card. I like to, you know, for this I thought, well, we'll go for the middle one. I always go for the middle one, right? And I say that. Is that it? Am I close? I'm close? Well, then it must be the 8 of spades. No, not. And then I just go to this because this is the whole point, right? I've obviously gotten all of the 8s, and by this point they should be chuckling, right? Thinking, well, that's, you obviously know what it is I'm going for. And then you ask, well, what was the card you wanted, right? And they say the 8 of diamonds. You say, well, we know it's not here, and we know it's not there. And then I like to just give, in these kinds of effects, is you give a beat and you just look at it. And without even saying what's going on, you look at it, you point, and then say, take a look, right? They take the box, they open it up, it's been sitting in full view, there's the card. So that is my treatment for that particular effect. Hopefully you like that particular treatment and that idea. Other ideas for it, obviously, any kind of way that you can force their card and then present the other 3 cards and make it disappear. I highly recommend the double stick tape. You don't even need to use the key that I'm using. I just think the key used in this way, like with the other trick, it just looks super clean, and it allows you to be very free in the handling. I can do legitimate riffle shuffling and cuts, a real sequence that looks like, you know, poker game gambling. It looks clean. It looks like a home game kind of procedure, totally fair. And still hit all these cards randomly. So that's how I looked at it. Any force, though. Any force, double stick tape, to make it disappear. That's my concept on that one. Let's take a quick look at this. So the big question is the dice, and this is something we've talked about on the channel. Now, what you didn't know about that is I did get lucky, right? And I hit the number. I believe I rolled, and on the first roll, I nailed it. It was 7. But I'm forcing 7s. I'm forcing 7s. It's as simple as that. I'm going to show you the handling, though, because if you remember, part of the presentation is that the spectators shuffled the deck. That's, I think, is very helpful in doing a randomly finding 4 of a kind from a deck that they shuffled up is alone pretty mind-blowing. But seeming to intend to do it on the 7 is even a little bit more mind-blowing. I rolled this and it hit 7 on the first try. The fact of the matter is, as we've talked about here, is that the numbers 6, 7, and 8 each have 3 different combinations with 2 dice. And they account for about 50% of the rolls, those 3 numbers, 6, 7, and 8. I'm just going for one of them, 7. I just chose to go for 7. 7 is the choice that I made. And it could have been 6, it could have been 8. You're as likely to hit those 2 as 7. But I went for 7, and I happened to hit it. But it doesn't matter, you see, because what you don't know is that I could roll this, and I can say, as you can see, as you roll them, you get a different outcome every time. And I could take my 3 shots, 2 or 3 shots, and if I don't hit it, I can pick them up, and there's a bit of banter in there that I didn't have to use. I can say now the difference between this and a slot machine is that, and I did say this, but I didn't make this deal out of it. I say you can actually see all sides of the dice and see that they are all different. It is fair. You can't see inside of the machine, though, right? Yet, people still play the slots. What I've done is I've just set the dice back down with the figure 7. So the way this would work is at the end, I wouldn't make a point of saying that we rolled a 7 at the beginning. And I would just say, just to be clear, the dice have been sitting there since before you shuffled the deck. And you can see the number is 7, and it would be a match. It just becomes another prediction rather than a random occurrence. It becomes a prediction. Now, honestly, they may remember this as me rolling the dice. It really doesn't matter. I'm not going to lie about it. I'm just going to let them think what they want to. But that's how I would handle it, right? You get a chance to roll. If you hit it, great. Remember, you make the deal with the dice thing. And it is better if you have multiple outs, 6, 7, and 8 when you're using dice in this way. But if you don't have to use multiple outs like this, you just, depending on probability, I love investing in probability. This is a way to do it with dice. You have a probability of hitting it. And if you don't hit it, it really doesn't matter because I can just put it there. I have probability that I'm going to hit it. There it is, 7. Okay. So if I hit it, great. If I don't hit it, I give my explanation about how I can see all of the sides of the dice and I can verify it. And then I can set it down on a 7 and move on. Now, the handling for the deck, the way this is set up is I have in the box, all 4 7s are on top. And then I have a key, a double thick key. In this case, my double thick key is a guarantee card or a joker. Okay, so I had a conversation over the weekend. I was at a family get together, and I was talking to my uncle, who also has a magic hobbyist. And we were talking about this particular gaff, and I was explaining this is, in my view, is just one of the most powerful gaffs that you can put in a deck. And his point was, well, the issue there obviously is that you can't really hand the deck out. And I said, well, that's why you make it the joker. And this is really how I tend to carry a double thick. I usually use it as a joker, as an alternative card, and thereby you always have the opportunity to take them out. Say, go ahead and take a look here. And then you just take the jokers. You don't have to make a deal out of it. You just remove them and set them aside. Nobody cares about those anyway. So I tend to carry that as a double thick. So here's my joker. It's there. And then my 7s are on top of that. And this is on the top of the deck. And the top of the deck is on the cutout side of the box. So the tab comes up, and there is the top of the deck. So you open it up, And then what I do is I grab the box. This is a normal box. It's not cut away like the Aussie Wind shift, box shift, if you're familiar with that. I won't get into it. It's his material, not mine. I don't gaff the box, right? Just normal box. But with this kind of thing, I can kind of grab it in the middle. And if I just pull down, it'll pop instantly right there at that double thick card. So the double thick and the sevens will go away from the top of the deck. Now I can take it with my other thumb and reach in and grab the entire deck minus those cards. So there's just a little slug that's missing. I set this down facing me so no one can see that there's cards remaining. And then I go on talking about slot machines, right? And I bring in these dice and I do that kind of stuff. And I shuffle the cards. They say, in fact, go ahead, you shuffle. And I say, in fact, just to be clear that they're shuffled, why don't you take a packet and give it to them and have them shuffle? Now, this is actually essential. I have them split the deck up on purpose, right? And this is why. The very first group of cards, I take them back myself. Now, it's not very clear on this presentation because I don't really have spectators here, but I would take them back myself and place them into the box. And I place them, what I do is I pick up the cards that are still in there and I lift them so that I'm placing these cards underneath them and returning them to the top. Now, what I've done is I've placed that first packet now underneath the force cards. And my thumb is sitting on top of them, and I can say, in fact, here, let's return all of them. I won't even touch. Now, this is one of those things where there's a discrepancy. I did touch the first packet and put them in, but midway through this, I've got more packets to go. I've kind of set a rule so that I don't touch the cards here. Go ahead and return them, right? And now I've got my thumb on this, so they can't really mix them up. They're always going to return in the gap that's left. And then I put my thumb on those cards, and then I have them place the remaining ones in that gap. I can help them out, square them up. I can say, now you've all shuffled the cards and returned them in here, but of course they're not completely shuffled. You haven't integrated all of them. Could you please cut the deck? What I'm having them do is I'm having them cut now my force cards, which are on top of this, on top of my key card, now into the middle of the deck. And now I'm in the exact same position that I was in the last trick. Okay, I have my force cards on top of the key in the middle of the deck. Riffle, riffle, strip, riffle, cut. I lift at the break where the key card is at. My force cards are on the bottom, key cards on the top. I riffle by laying a bet on this side and maintaining the key on the top. And this is a legitimate shuffle. So for someone looking at the shuffle, I'm actually shuffling the top into the bottom. Perfectly legitimate what I'm doing here because I broke at a key. Now the next one is not going to be legitimate. I'm going to take the top off to the right and I'm going to drop a bet on the left. And then I'm going to drop the key on the right and shuffle again. You might want to give finger cover for this and be brisk about it. So now I have the key on the top, sevens are still at the bottom. I'm going to do my strip, riffle, riffle, strip. I take half off, I strip the bottom chunk, then I strip fairly, strip. Back in the middle again, I lift at the key, sevens are on the bottom. Riffle, I drop the bet of sevens on the bottom, keep the key on the top. Riffle and then cut. Would you please cut? They cut the cards. Spectator cuts the cards somewhere in the middle. I often will give that direction. I'll say, please cut approximately half. Can you please cut half right here? I guide them, right, so that they don't do a weird cut. Because I have some relatives when I play poker games on summer vacation when we're all together as a family, we play Texas Hold'em. I have a brother-in-law who notoriously will cut like 2 cards off, right? Just so you avoid that, I say cut somewhere in the middle. And then now I've put it back into the middle. And now I do my dead cut. So I lift, I dead cut, I slide off, first 7, I lay it out there, okay? I can do this again. Now, if you remember from the presentation last time, what I did is immediately after they cut, I did a dead cut right away because they already shuffled the deck. I didn't do this riffle, riffle, strip, riffle, cut until the second one. So now I've got 2 out on the table. Now we go to kind of the Harry Lorraine Halo Aces final show. This is a stop force that is not really a stop force. It's not a timing force at all. It doesn't really matter what they do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get that card, these cards, onto the bottom, my force cards. So they're on the bottom. I've just done this. I've put the one out there. I can either riffle and cut, or probably more direct. I've taken one card, I drop this one down to the bottom, I put this one on top, I pick up the packet, and all I'm going to do is overhand shuffle, but I'm going to milk the bottom card. 1-7, I'm going to milk it off of the bottom as I start to overhand. So now what I'm doing is I'm fairly overhand shuffling, and I say stop. And it doesn't matter when they say stop. They'll say stop, I say right here, and now I've got a situation where the bottom of this packet is a 7 and the bottom of this packet is the other 7 because it was already there, right? So what I did, I think, on the presentation is I just laid them down. I spread them out and I took the bottom of each, right? There's a discrepancy in there, right? But it looks fair. It looks fair. I mean, the cards have been shuffled how many times? I can now put my key back into the middle, and I'm free to show this now. I can just spread this out. Nobody cares about the jokers being in there or whatever. You can have a different key card that's actually a real card. And all of the 7s are now on the table, and that's it. Slot machine. And remember, I could roll this by chance. I'm investing in probability that I'll hit a 7. Just a thing you can do with dice, 6, 7, or 8. Multiple outs are really great for that again. Or I could have just placed it there. It really doesn't matter. I would say, let's pretend I just set them down. I never rolled that, but I just set them down. Okay. I've only used the dice to explain the concept. They haven't really been used for anything else. Here's how my pattern would go. And just in case you were unsure about this, go ahead and look at those dice. Remember that we had at the beginning. What number do you see? 4 plus 3, 7. There it is. Okay. So you have one more prediction. It doesn't have to be a chance roll. It's a prediction nonetheless. I put them there. Either I rolled them there or I set them there. It really doesn't matter. They were put there before anything happened, and they've been sitting there the whole time. And that's what we hit from a shuffled deck. So that's my handling for the slot machine effect. Hopefully you enjoyed that. You find some use for it. A little bit of preparation, a little bit of a stack to work with in that double thick card. And last but not least, there is a card at number effect in question here. So the explanation for this was pretty straightforward. The poster, again, was Jess Balome, Jessbalome, I believe, asked for this card at number. And what it was you have a deck of cards. They didn't specify if you wanted this to be shuffled by the spectator or not. I'm going to show you one where you do it. They shuffle the deck. So imagine the spectator shuffles the deck. I'm going to give you a few ways to handle this, common magician ways, right? And I think this goes to reason that as you were thinking about this effect, it probably seemed really good in your mind, and it is. It is really good. If you did this for a spectator, it would be a really banging trick. I mean, it would be a really great trick. Now, the problem is that for a magician, it wouldn't necessarily be a really great trick. But it doesn't matter how this works for a magician. It matters how this works for real people, right? The 99.999999999% of people out there, the real people you perform for, those are the ones that matter. Here's the effect. Let's say the deck is shuffled by the spectator, and then you say, I'm thinking of a card. Okay, I'm thinking of a card. What I want you to do is I just want you to name any number. Okay, so they name a number. Let's say they name, make it truly random. Let's say they name 33. 33, bigger number, okay? So I'm just going to count 33 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. This is 33 right here, and that was really bad. I apologize. This is 33 right here. And by the way, 7 of diamonds is what I'm thinking of, and it's a hit. Okay, so this is just a bottom deal off of a spectator shuffle deck. Now, I think the way you worded it was they name a number and then you count down and then you name the card that's there. So you could do that. And if you do that, another way to handle this would be to have a marked deck. You just count down the number and then you note the card and you call it out and you show it. That's another way to do it. But I think it'd be better if you call that number first, or call that identity first, right? So spectator shuffle deck, you take it back, you glimpse the bottom. 2 of spades is going to be my card. I say, go ahead and name a number, any number that you want. They name a number, something smaller, 14, we'll say. They say 14 and I say 14, 2 of spades. 2 of spades, 14. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Here is 14. And this is where I do the bottom deal. This is what I like to do. I jog out as I get my break with my ring finger on the bottom, and it gives me time to do that. I say 14, and then I push out, and you don't have to be quick with this. One person recommended one time when I brought this up, all you have to do is do what's called a wrist kill, where you just drop the hand down as you take the card off, and it covers the motion pretty well. And you can be pretty slow on it, but a simple bottom deal, and of course you just force the card out, okay? Other ways to deal with this, though, spectator shuffle deck, take it back, right? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to shuffle, again, as soon as I take it back, I note the bottom card, and I'm going to shuffle it to the top. 6 of hearts is what it is. Say it's shuffled, you're satisfied everything's been shuffled. I want you to give me a number to count, a number of cards. And what I've done is I reversed the top 4 cards. So I put my 6 of hearts now at the 4th position. And they give me a number. They say 25, okay, is their number. And all I'm going to do is underspread call that off of the 4th to the 25th position. So I just count. So without dealing, I just count a number of cards. I go 1, 2, 3, and at the 4th I call. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and I'm just stuffing these cards now over top of the force card. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, you said? 25 cards. And I said it was going to be the whatever, I can't remember what it was, 6 of hearts is what, I forgot how many cards you've done. 6 of hearts, and I can show it, right? And I can call it ahead of time too. 25, 6 of hearts. I count it out, and then I'm going to hit it. Another way to do that, so using just a spread call from the shuffle deck if you want to. If you don't want to do the shuffle deck, you can just already know your 4th card. Just know what it's going to be and then hit it. In this case, you could have a card set there, right? You could have a deeper plot. Say it's the whole Maverick thing. If you've ever seen the movie Maverick, throughout the film, Maverick is obsessed with dead cutting to the ace of spades. Just having that skill as a gambler. If a gambler could do that at any moment, imagine how much money they would make. Name a number. Right? And I already have my ace of spades set. So now I have a plot detail put inside where I've named a card ahead of time. They're giving me a number, and then I go to it. It seems like such a stupid, silly trick to magicians, especially those of you on this channel that discuss the things we discuss. But to a spectator, that's just as good as any card at any number. I mean, it really is just as good. It's no different to them than them naming a card, naming a number, and then finding it there. Freely, right? It really is no different to them, and it's easier to do. One last way to do this is to just glimpse the card that you arrive at. You could do that. You could have the spectator shuffle, right? They have them set the cards down, right? And they could, let's say 14 again, give them a number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So this here would be the 14th card. That was the number that you picked. And what I did is, as I turn this up, I get a bubble peak. I can glimpse down. I can catch that this is the king of spades. So the bubble peak is done, top peak is done by buckling the card so that it creates a bubble on the top. And if you look at that from my angle, where my finger's covering it, as I turn them perpendicular, I could count 13. And actually, as I do 13, I could put it down and get a glimpse of that card even in that moment, right? And I'd say that's 13, this would be 14 right here, and I know what it is. So now I can call it at the moment that I've seen. Again, not as strong because there could be the implication of marked cards or whatever, but if it was a borrowed deck, shuffled and in use, that might be a very powerful, clean way without having to get glimpses ahead of time. So that's it. Another way to do it is to do the divination of a card that they get to. So, and I can name the card that you pick at that number. I do it by feel, right? And we've gone over this before. You can talk about how the ink on black cards is more stiff and spades and diamonds are sharp and whatever. And I can feel it just by bending the card, and you can show it to them. And in this moment, as I bend, I actually get a glimpse of this index right down here. I can see it, okay? As I very quickly look down, I can see the king and the spade. And now I know it, a good glimpse there. So a lot of ways, couple of glimpses you can use on the very end if you want to. You can spread call it into place. You can glimpse it from the bottom and do a bottom deal if you want to. A little risky there to do a move on the moment, but that might be a way to do it if your bottom deal is satisfactory. So a bunch of different ways. Now, I cannot talk about this idea without mentioning Thom Parkin. Thom Parkin has Instant Card Magician. I'll put a link in the description to this video. It's a great trick. It is essentially the trick that we're talking about here, but it has an elaborate kind of setup where there's instructions on a phone, on a web app, a website, that the spectator can do from their phone. You can take their phone and bring up the web app, and they can go through it, and it gives them directions. It says, now you are supposed to tell the magician to do this. Have the magician do this. Have the magician think of a card, right? Have the magician count off a number, whatever. And then what was the card the magician was thinking of? And the magician says what they're thinking of, and it hit. So what you do is you turn the spectator into an instant card magician where they do a trick on you. It's very clever, very well done, and it's right up this alley. It's essentially the trick you're describing, but with really great dressing. It's really, really well dressed up. So highly recommend Instant Card Magician by Thom Parkin. A great solution to this type of effect if it's something that you're interested in. Boy, that was a lot of material. So 40 minutes, we got 3 effects. We covered the first one that set this all off, the slot machine effect. We covered the card at number, a couple of ways to do that from a shuffled deck in use. One other way to do this is simply to have a mem deck. Just have a mem deck. So they can call a number from a mem deck, and then you can call what it is. It really doesn't matter. So if you have a memorized deck, that's another thing. You do false shuffle at the beginning, take them out, name a number, right? And you can say, you know, the card I was thinking of is this. Let's see what we get, and then find it there. So another solution, mem deck, very easy way to get there. And then this trick, Waits Watcher, I don't know, you can come up with a name for it if you want to, but it's a card to box with a 3 mates revelation, and really, really, really clever effect there, and that's the common magician treatment for it. So keep your recommendations coming. If you have an effect, it can be cards, it can be anything, it can be, you know, certainly as elaborate as some of the things we've been talking about, but again, we're looking for something that would be up the alley of this channel, a common magician type effect, a close-up table, a parlor, living room, you know, kitchen counter kind of effect. Come up with your idea, and I will give it the common magician treatment, and we'll evaluate how to accomplish your effect. Maybe more than one way to do it. So anyway, hope you enjoyed that. Good luck with this. Keep the recommendations coming through the summer as I have time to visit these, and good luck with this. Happy magicking.